Morning, everyone. We'll be go ahead and getting started. It's about 9 o'clock right now. And I'm really glad to have you all in here. I know that folks will probably be hopping in as we continue on. My name is Alex. I am a college program coordinator with California Youth Advocacy Network, and we are very glad to welcome you to our first week of our workshop series on supporting students and campus communities in tobacco treatment and quitting nicotine. So feel free during this time, say hello in the chat box if you'd like. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we'll hop straight into all of our activities for today. So first off, I encourage you all to change your names in Zoom to allow us to know your name, your pronouns, and what organization or campus you are with. So to do this, if you go to the upper right-hand corner of your video and you click on the three little dots that appear and you click on rename, you'll be able to rename yourself. So I'll make sure to give everyone a chance to do that real quick, so that everyone has the instructions on if they need it. We highly encourage this. One of the main reasons, in case you're not familiar with why we use pronouns, is because of the fact that we do want to make sure that we are not guessing or just assuming anybody's pronouns in the room. So as we have discussions, as we talk to each other throughout the day, we do have unique links for each of our different sessions. So make sure to go in at the beginning of the sessions and just update your names so that we can know how to address you and where you're from and everything. So welcome everybody. And I'm glad to see names changing throughout. So I will make sure to put a reminder of that later as well. So a little bit of housekeeping before we all get started. I know a lot of us are pretty familiar with Zoom at this point. We've been all doing this during the pandemic for quite a while. But just in case any of y'all need reminders of the information, please do keep yourself muted unless otherwise instructed. We will be recording this session, and so we will make those recordings available later. So make sure that if you are putting anything in or saying anything out loud, do know that it will be recorded and available later on. And also, if you do have to tune out at any point, you can get this content later or rewatch it for a reminder. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, and this goes for all of our different sessions, feel free to type those questions into the chat during the session, and we will be having Q&A periods later on. And if you would like to verbally ask your questions, just make sure to raise your hand during that time, and we will call you out to make sure that you can unmute yourself. Each of the breakout sessions that we have today are set up with a unique link, and those can all be found on the same agenda page that you all used to get to this session. And also, if there are any technical difficulties throughout the day, you can either send an email to Kim at CYAN Online or cyanonline.org, or also send her a direct message if it's something happening within Zoom or if you need the links to move to another session again. With that being, I think one of my slides went missing. Yeah, it's okay. So like I said, you can click the little session button that my slides somewhere, and I was going to show you all that directly, but just look on that website. You can see all of the different breakout sessions, and they will be, there's a little join session right at the bottom. You can just read through. There are 3 breakout sessions per breakout, and we'll be able to get in through there. So a little bit about us at CYAN. We are a statewide training and technical assistance provider. CYAN offers everything from technical assistance trainings, statewide advocacy and policy campaigns, support for campuses in policy adoption, implementation, compliance, educational materials and publications, and also opportunities for networking for college students and youth and young adults and our partners across the board throughout the field. We have 3 primary things that we focus on within our work. We work with youth to increase and strengthen youth engagement in tobacco control work. We work with young adults and college to advocate for smoke and tobacco-free colleges and university campuses. And we work on emerging products and educating young people, adult partners, and communities about emerging products and nicotine, as well as supporting quit attempts. So on this slide, you'll see some of our team, and I know we have a few people already on the call. And so I'll let them, unmute themselves to say hi, but I'll call them out in the order of which I see them on our slides. So we have Kim Homer-Vagadori, our program director.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you over the next few weeks and working with you in the weeks and days to come on smoke and tobacco-free campus work. Thanks again.
We also have Vicki Webster, our managing director.
Thanks for joining us. Hello, everyone.
And then there's myself, Alex Bird, college program coordinator. And then we have Andrea Philibran, college program coordinator as well.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice to have you all on the call workshop.
Thank you. And then we have Christina. I don't think Caitlin's gotten a chance to join us yet, but she will be hopping on later. Oh, she is here? Okay, cool. Well, we have Caitlin Maisman, our outreach coordinator.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to meet and interface with all of you over the next few weeks.
Awesome. And then we have Christina Zhang from who's our program assistant.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
And then we have our youth program, which are any of our youth program on here yet?
Ignacio is here this morning.
Cool. So we do have Nicole Morgan and Veronica Farrell, who are both youth program coordinators. You might see them throughout the few weeks as well. They're going to be assisting us at times. And then we also have one of our newest additions to the team. We're very glad to welcome him. So we have Ignacio Burgos, who is a youth engagement coordinator with our team now. If you would like to introduce yourself to Ignacio.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. And thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I do have the slides. They were just in a different order than I remembered. So, it's Friday morning. So the agenda for today, I'll be wrapping up this introduction here very soon. And then we're going to be moving into our first session, which will be going from actually about 9:10 to 10 o'clock. From that point, we will have a 5-minute break. And during that time, you will need to switch to the whichever session during the breakout you would like to join. So make sure to exit out of this Zoom, go to that webpage we were mentioning. We'll make sure to put it in the chat box right when it gets time for everyone to head out, just in case you need the link again. And you'll just select whichever one you want to go into and hop in for that. At 10:50, we will be taking another 5-minute break, during which time you will switch to the next breakout session. You don't need to come back to the general session during that time frame. Just hop straight into whatever next session it is that you are interested in partaking in. And then at 11:40, we'll have one more 5-minute break for you to switch back into our general session room for the closing. Again, there's a link for that one. And we highly recommend you come back to the closing session. We encourage it, in fact, because we will be doing a little bit of a wrap up together. We have some really good announcements from CYIN for things that you need to know for next week and other programming things. And also, if you are looking for any of your CEUs, that will be the time when you will get your link to fill out the evaluation so you can get credit for being here today. So please do make sure you come back for that closing session. It's going to be a quick wrap up, but we do really have some great things planned for it as well. So please make sure to come back and join us once again. For your breakout sessions, this was the slide I was thinking I was missing way earlier. You'll see on your page that under each of the descriptions, it has a join session link. All you have to do is just click that button and you will be able to hop straight into whichever breakout session you want to do. And that's also how you can get back to the closing session as well. So we have the link up on the screen one more time. It'll get sent out to you towards the end. And with that, I would like to go ahead and move into introducing our first speaker of the day. We have Linda Hancock here, who is going to be talking to us about young adult addiction, trigger behavior, and reward. Linda Hancock specializes in making science user-friendly and fun. She likes to say she is a funny nurse practitioner and recovery ally. Linda retired from Virginia Commonwealth University after a 30-year career in student health and directed the VCU Wellness Resource Center. Linda has a master's in community health nursing and a PhD in education. These days, Linda runs her own business called lindagivesback.com. Proceeds are donated to recovery-related causes, and Linda continues to learn and grow in her own mindfulness practices and bird watching skills. She still likes to help young people and see ways to live happier, healthier, happier lives. And so with that, I encourage you all, again, if you have questions throughout, throw them in the chat box. We will be having a Q&A towards the end, and I will hand it off to you, Linda.
Thank you,
for being here.
Alex. I'm going to go ahead. Are you going to stop sharing your screen and I'll start sharing
Yes.
mine? All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me join you. I really appreciate it. Let me know if you can see that. Can everyone see that okay? We're good. All right. You will be getting a copy of this as a PDF, so don't feel like you need to take notes as we go along. There are quite a few slides. You did a great introduction, Alex, so people know I'm a nurse practitioner. I do have a PhD, which just means I do not easily believe what I am told, and I count a lot of things. So we will count some things. Every slide that has a research study or a resource has a link in this the PDF that you'll get. And yes, I am a junior in retirement and a recovery ally. And scattered throughout this talk will be recovery ally tips. Full disclosure, CYAN is giving me a small honorarium, and that is going to go to JHW Foundation. And this foundation helps young people in their recovery efforts. So I do have a very unusual fantasy life, which I should never mention because I lose half the people's attention in the audience. But my current fantasy is I really wish we would do alcohol and drug education differently. In fact, I use the term molecules because drugs just seem so judgmental. And today it's going to be even less judgmental because we're going to talk about habit loops. So I always start with a warning. You know how they say that if you live with a pet long enough that you start to look like that pet that you love so much? Well, I don't look like a college student. I got wrinkles, gray hair, and jiggly arms, but I sure do talk like one. So full disclosure, I have no filter. I do tend to be socially inappropriate as both a nurse and a person who loves young people. We do have learning objectives. We are going to do science. We're going to relook at operant conditioning. Many of you learned about in your undergrad. We're going to look at some recent research in neuroscience and the trigger behavior reward habit loop. I'm hoping to share video clips and apps with you that will help you understand how awareness and curiosity can help your students on your campus. And there are many Recovery Ally tips at the chat. I hope some of them are helpful for you. When you leave here today, I'm hoping the thing you take home the most is awareness and curiosity in your own life. All right, so everybody grab your cell phone. There is a polling program that I'm using in addition. If you go to your browser on your cell phone and type in ttpoll.com, you should get a blue screen that says, hi guests, and there's a session ID. Type in Linda123, hit join session. Notice how this is totally anonymous. What you will notice is that there's a little closed clock. This is not a polling slide. So is everybody doing good? Nod some heads at me. Everybody's in. We're okay. Alex is good. Christina, did you manage to join? Yes. Okay, I see some nods. So here's your first practice question. What best describes you? Are you a campus nurse? You don't have to hit enter. You should just have to check your box. Are you a campus nurse? Are you a campus physician, nurse practitioner, PA? I'm looking for how many prescribers are on the talk today. Do you work for campus wellness? You a faculty or staff member? Are you a community member who's a tobacco control advocate or a student advocate or other? And if you could in the chat room, if you're having trouble with this, Alex will let you know. It's ttpoll.com and session 123. I'm not sure if everybody went downstairs to eat breakfast or not. That's a possibility. I know this is being charted. So I'm going to cut you off. When Linda gets bored, she cuts you off. And what we'll find is most of you are tobacco control partners. We did get some campus nurses. We have no prescribers. Sad to see that. Okay, but I'm glad you guys are all here and no others. So I'll start with your first tip. My favorite soundbite and a disclaimer that has helped me through 30 years is compassionate curiosity. When you work with students, it's not being nosy, it's being interested in their lives. And if you've never read the book by Gabor Mate called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, it's excellent. He's an inner city physician who treats heroin addicts. If you read nothing else, he has a chapter on the ecology of healing. And what he says is under the influence of the brain-altering chemicals, it's not always possible for users to sustain the self-compassion they need to heal their brains, which is why, although information is important, treatment is essential. And so I know there are breakout sessions. There are breakout sessions on how to use MI. There are breakout sessions on treatment. These are really important. The information I'm going to present is an adjunct. It's something to help you talk to patients and for peers to connect with in empathy with their the other students. All right, so what products are most popular with the students you work with? Combustible cigarettes, smokeless tobacco, hookah, nicotine, e-cigarettes, vaping devices. Let's see, we got some people in anyway. Go quickly because, and I don't have too many polling slides, but I am always curious. All right, I'm going to go ahead. You're doing pretty good there, getting it in. I'm going to go ahead and cut you off. All right, and you guys said nicotine e-cigarettes followed by vaping THC. All right, so we'll address both of those. As a recovery ally, I just always start with language because it's so important to reduce stigma. This is a picture of Bonnie. Bonnie was the first president of RAMS in recovery. Bonnie started using molecules at 13, was addicted by 16, and in recovery by 19. And she was a criminal justice major. And the day came when her professor was talking about how substance use issues overlap with the criminal justice system. And the professor was using terms like pothead, junkie. And Bonnie, instead of getting angry, just wrote those derogatory terms down, made tally marks, and then at the end of the class went up to the professor and said, "Hi, I have enjoyed your class until today, but you should know that I am a person in long-term recovery, and every time you inadvertently use one of these hurtful words, it endangers my sobriety and it prevents other people from coming forward." So the professor was like, "You are so right. Will you present with me?" So the correct term is people with substance use disorder, people with opiate use disorder, alcohol use disorder, yes, nicotine use disorder, and cannabis use disorder. And by the way, I use the word cannabis, not marijuana, because marijuana has been perceived as derogatory by some people. So Google that about the social justice issues. We're trying to eliminate the word abuse because it's a very stigmatizing word and instead use use or substance use disorder. And the disorder is on a spectrum, a continuum, and addiction is still the most severe form. If you are not aware of this resource, recoveryanswers.org is amazing. If you're not sure what words to use, there is a dictionary there. So I'm like, is it return to use? Is it relapse? When do I use the word misuse? That's your best source to go to be destigmatizing in your language. Now, I'd also like any students that are on this list or anybody on a campus to take a look at the terms you're using for people and places on your campus. And abuse is has snuck into our vocabulary. And so instead, if you could consider things like substance education and recovery support and try to get rid of the word abuse. I know it takes time, but it's not going to happen if we don't start. So I've made every mistake in the book. I'm old. I used to say I love smokers. Now I say I love people who smoke, and I love people who vape. I think they're fascinating people. Everything I know about addiction, I have learned from people who've struggled with molecules. So I do travel around, and I tend to get young people to ask more questions than give answers. So I'll often start with a question, what's the most devastating drug? And you could chat in your comment in the chat room, and Alex or Kim, if somebody does chat up what they think the most devastating drug is, or I might call it molecule because that's less judgmental. So did we get anybody chatting what they think the most devastating drug is?
There's a couple of people so far saying opioids.
Okay, anybody else? I had this one guy, he yelled, estrogen. I'm like, well, I'm not sure that's where I was going, but that's pretty good. And then I was working with a group of teenagers. Anything else in the chat?
Yes, a couple mentions of meth and nicotine.
Okay,
So far, those
nicotine,
are the
all
top
right.
three.
So one kid yelled out, porn. And I was like, you know, he's right. And so now I'm using the term habit loop. So what is the most devastating habit loop? We'll come up with that at the end of the talk. So what do you think is the most common addictive molecule or habit loop on your campus? Put it in the chat, go fast. Kim or Alex, yell out what the most common addictive habit loop on campus is. What have we got?
THC.
Oh, it's an interesting one. Anything else?
Nicotine.
Think outside the box, people.
Peer pressure. Social
Peer pressure
media.
is a good one. I'd have to put in cell phones. I mean, you think about it, every person on campus has a cell phone, and they hired psychologists to make this as addictive as possible. You get a hit of dopamine in your reward center when somebody likes things online. And what brain science teaches us is neurons that fire together, wire together. So all addictive molecules can go in some type of electronic device, THC, nicotine, crystal meth. So the wave of the future with addiction is going to be this double habit loop. It's going to be not only the molecule, but the habit loop of our cell phones. So really, I think if you want to open up compassion and understanding brain science helps us help others. So let me do some brain science with you. This is a great webinar I just sat through the last month by Kevin McCauley, who has several films out. You can still go to this webinar. It's 80 minutes. You do have to log in, but it's free. He goes through the most up-to-date neuroscience, and it is awesome. If you want to geek out, go to there. This is older science. This is from the Surgeon General's report. This is not something he mentions, but I think what people do when it comes to addictive drugs is they look at the binge good, feel good part. And so it's hard to be compassionate because other people are having a good time and you're not. So please focus on the fact that it's not just the reward center that's involved in addiction. It's the negative feelings and it's your prefrontal cortex as well. So Kevin McCauley points out that addiction is a disorder of pleasure, right? It's our reward system. But it's also a disorder of choice. Your brain is an organ, and using molecules inflames parts of your organ, including choice or volition, which is in the prefrontal cortex. And then he talks about how stress can also cause inflammation in the brain, and how genes are not the cause of addiction, but a powerful moderator. And so this is the slide he used that I loved. All disease is inflammation. I don't care if it's a broken bone, kidney cancer, or disease of the brain called addiction. And inflammation is involved in all of them. And so those are so many things that go into it that it's important to understand not all brains experience things the same way. Not all of us get cancer. Not all of us get heart disease. Not all of us get addiction, but some people do. Now we're going to focus on, I don't know if you have research crushes. I do. My first research crush was on William Miller, who teaches MI. I love him. But lately, I've been focusing on the work of Dr. Judson Brewer, who is an addiction psychiatrist, a neuroscience researcher, and a mindfulness practitioner. It's like the trifecta. And you go to his website, Dr. Judd, and he says, we all struggle with something. He had me there. That's compassion. If you're a peer on this, that is compassion. We all struggle with something: anxiety, emotional eating, addiction, smoking. And so his focus is on habit loops. Now, many of you have learned about B.F. Skinner and habit loops. And so we're going to just look at the brain science on that. Now, why do habit loops exist in our brains? Well, it's all about survival. If you're attacked by a lion, you get anxious, your behavior is to run, you feel better when you're free. All of us get hungry. To survive, we have to eat. We find food, our hunger is satisfied, we feel better. But what happens over time is our brain is very smart, and the faster it gets rewarded, the more addictive the habit loop. Now, I'm not talking about eating bunnies, but how many of you have a dog at home? Anybody got dogs? Raise your hands. I love my dog. But when I take my dog for a walk, the caviar in nature to dogs is rabbit poop. It is like the primo delicacy. So if I take my dog on a 5-mile walk and she finds rabbit poop at the beginning of the walk, I yank her away, walk 4 miles, I'm coming back. I've forgotten all about the rabbit poop. Did my dog? No. Boom, my dog is there. My dog's brain remarks where that is and when it happened. That's like clicker training your dog. Now, your brain is also so smart that if you eat and you feel better, then you have a bad day and you're like, damn, that professor gave me an F. You're thinking, well, when I was hungry, I felt better when I ate. Maybe now that I'm depressed or frustrated, if I smoke take a hit off of that thing that made me feel better at the party, it'll make me feel better. And then that gets hooked in. And then, of course, all of us know the food loop that makes us feel better. So Judson talks about the fact that this was Nobel Prize winning research by B.F. Skinner. Now, pigeons get hungry. They don't normally play ping pong, but if you take a habit loop of hunger, you can teach a pigeon to make a cross-court shot. And when it goes off the end, see how excited they are? They get their food. Me, I get excited with brownies, but so why doesn't willpower work? Well, because that's where it's located in the prefrontal cortex, which is the newest part of the brain. It goes offline when we're stressed. So we mean to quit smoking, but it's really hard when we're stressed. I'm going to teach you a couple other brain centers. One is the default mode network. I don't know if you've heard of it or not before. It includes something called the posterior cingulate gyrus, and this is Wikipedia at its finest. The default mode network is activated by craving and anxiety. I think of it as the me center. Anytime you're telling stories in your brain about your life, anytime you're in this habit loop of thought, oh man, she really pissed me off, and next time I'm going to say this about that, you're in your default mode network. The way you calm it down is by staying in the present moment and being here. The other part of the brain you need to know about is the orbitofrontal cortex, which helps us decide, do I want broccoli? Do I want chocolate? And unfortunately, my brain often chooses chocolate, but everybody's is different. Some people perceive cocaine to be pleasurable. Some people perceive it as dysphoric. Some people love THC, it calms them down. Other people get paranoid and look out the window for the cops all night long. So everybody's brain is different. But the cool part about the orbitofrontal cortex is that the brain is always looking for a bigger, better offer. That's what Dr. Brewer calls it. And the coolest part about being human is that awareness and curiosity trump almost any other bigger, better offer. Now, the trouble with addiction from molecules and what's going on in our current day is that our prehistoric brainstem reward has been hijacked by super potent, novel engineered molecules. So vaping and THC, particularly the flavors, like one of the tips for quitting if you want to stop vaping is don't keep switching. There's something called vapor's tongue where the new flavors bring back gets rid of the tolerance and is more addictive. This is why porn is so addictive, because you can swipe to the next slide and you can keep moving up the ante as you go along. All right. So are you all familiar with Judson Brewer's app called Craving to Quit? I'm just curious. I'd like to get a couple of you in anyway to know if the West Coast knows what's going on in the East Coast. How many of you have heard of Craving to Quit? It's a nicotine cessation app. And you guys said, let's see what we got. So nobody has. So this is new information. So if you go to Dr. Judd's website, he has 3 current apps. Craving to Quit is his nicotine app that was developed first. He has one for healthy, mindful eating, and he has a new one for anxiety. He has a whole list of TED Talks and videos and books that are fascinating. Now, it does cost. There's a monthly fee to use the Quit to Craving app. But I'll tell you what, participants find it worth it. He had 16 million views on his TED Talk, and he was talking about a woman. When he works with smokers or nicotine users, people who smoke or people who use nicotine, he doesn't tell them to stop using. He's like, just be really present when you're smoking. Notice how you feel. Notice what the reward is. And so one of his participants who was using the app noted that mindful smoking smells like stinky cheese and tastes like chemicals. Yuck. When we really settle down and become present, we notice that the payoff isn't what we really want. Here's one from his anxiety app. When I first started the program, I didn't quite buy into the benefits of curiosity. Today, I felt a wave of panic, and instead of immediate dread or fear, my automatic response was, huh, that's interesting. That took the wind right out of its sails. I wasn't just saying it was interesting, I actually felt it. So the cool part is Dr. Judd gives away a lot for free. So this is a free course for healthcare professionals. I've done it. They're like 6, 20 to 30-minute sessions where he teaches you how to engage students in a talk about trigger behavior rewards. So like, what's triggering you? What do you notice about the behavior? What do you notice about the reward? It's a much just less judgmental way to interact with people. Now, my love of recovery and the study of addiction came from nicotine. When I was a very young nurse, worked in a neuro ICU, and this is a true story. I would work with people who got liquored up, drive into walls, and break their brains. And I was working with one young man who drove into a wall and was in a coma. He was unconscious on a ventilator, fighting my ventilator. And his girlfriend tapped me on the shoulder and said, "He's a 2-pack-a-day smoker. I'll bet if you stuck him on a nicotine patch, he'd calm down." In a coma, put him on a nicotine patch, he calms right down. Now that tells me it is not willpower. This is a disease of the brain that's been inflamed. And that's why medicines are often helpful. I think every campus should have a prescriber who can do Wellbutrin or Chantix or help with NRT. This is also where I learned that all human beings are charming genetic snowflakes. No 2 people are the same. Out of 4 people who tries nicotine, 1 in 4 is missing a gene that makes an enzyme to break down nicotine. They try to smoke, they'll puke. They're not so morally upright. Now, you should know life is not fair, but it can often be wonderful. So who's at risk? Well, genetically, we've known for 20 years that you can predict in kindergarten who is most likely to be a nicotine addict or have trouble with addiction in their lives. Now, genetics is not destiny, but you can learn a lot from genetics, and you don't have to swab somebody's mouth. There are 4 temperament traits. You are born with these. The first one is people who are externalizing, that is sensation-seeking and impulsive. This is not a bad way to be. These people are going to be goalies. They're going to be pioneers. They're going to think of cures to cancer. But if you're an impulsive 12-year-old and somebody offers you a hit off of a Juul or an OxyContin, you might take it. There are people who are born externalizing. They just have more anxiety receptors. They make more stress chemicals. There are people who are born making more negative thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are just neuropeptides. So if you're a 16-year-old who's anxious at a party and you try a beer or a hit off of a THC vape and you feel better, just makes sense that you would continue to use. These are not abnormal traits. They are found in every culture in the world. If we all had to hunt buffalo to live, we would want impulsive, sensation-seeking people to go get the buffalo, but we would also need people in our tribe who would say, I don't know, I think you're gonna die. I'm gonna go get the berries. I'll see you if you're back. And so in Canada, they have an entire program. This New York Times article features it, that talks about how to help young people in middle school. So if you haven't heard of Preventure by Patricia Conrad, read that New York Times article. It's excellent. And we are also genetic. We got the Irish virus in my family. This is why I make this green. I'll just quickly tell you, and mindfulness helps everything, no matter what type of genetic snowflake we were born. So biological response, everything's on a continuum. You know how you go to a party and some people have one beer and they're like, oh my God, I'm like so drunk. And you're like, seriously? Like you had a half a beer. But she's a little genetic snowflake whose liver doesn't make enough enzymes. Then there's other people who from the first time they drink go to a party and can have 6 or 8 and not feel anything. Now, if he has 8, feels nothing, everybody else is at the party having a good time, what's he gonna do? Drink more. And so even though he could be the kindest guy on the planet, the guy who's going to figure out world peace, he may very well go on to become addicted to alcohol. This is based on the work by Dr. Mark Schuckett in California. Dr. Macaulay calls certain people 2 sticks of gum people. They just need more dopamine. I had this one college student, he made it to college as a total never nicotine user. In 1 week, he went from being a non-user to a pack-a-day smoker. That is an amazing genetic snowflake who obviously is a 2 stick of gum person. All right, so you ask yourself, or I do, why do people use? Well, I'll bet you could type it in, but I will tell you, curiosity is at the top of the list and to fit in. And that's why as advocates and health educators, it's important that we do fact-based, not health terrorism, because people are curious. So give them the facts, but don't make it health terrorism. To fit in, I'm a social norms researcher. That's why I have clickers and I ask people what they think people do and what they don't, what they really do. But really, to feel good, to feel better because you feel bad and it helps you cope, or to perform better, which is all motivated by stress. And people often start for one reason, like they're curious, but now it makes them feel better, so they continue to use. So it is so hard to get students to come to programs. And if you want to tell me how you do it, that would be great. How do you get them to come? Well, this is why habit loops are gold. I was talking to 100 high school students last week. I asked them, what habit loop are you most interested in learning about? So look at their choices: overeating, anxiety, alcohol, screen, all the way up. In your mind, guess what their answer is? And the answer is, of course, it's sex and porn. Get a grip. Of course, that was what they wanted to know. Number 2 was anxiety. Would you look where nicotine landed? Total last. Yet it is the habit loop or the molecule most likely to kill those who get involved with any molecule. And so I'm doing a new talk next week called Popcorn, Pot, and Porn: How Pandemic Fostered Habit Loops Have Shaped Our Behavior, right? Because haven't we all done something different? Aren't we all interested in how we could change habit loops we've set up? So this is why habit loops are so fascinating, because we all have them, and it's a non-judgmental way that we can talk to people about what's going on. Like, is anger now a trigger for us? And how do we cope with these things? So really, the discussion is, what did we want, or do we want? And what are we really getting? And that's why being mindfully aware instead of judging ourselves and judging others is very helpful. And then that begets curiosity about, really, are we getting what we want? And it helps us use the pre-orbital frontal cortex about the bigger, better offer. Now, I help people solidify this more than she didn't quit smoking when she got asthma, but when her dog got, she pictured her dog in this locket, and then this cigarette voices come in her head. She thought maybe a cigarette would be good, but this is so important to me. Another guy, he was like, they've made, or they want to buy a motorcycle. So this is the connection between mindfulness and habit loops. And this 10-minute clip, but I wanted you to see this section.
And we've gone on to map the brain regions that fault mode network. Many of you are familiar with this. This network gets activated when we get caught up in craving. It's activated when we get caught up in perseveration or rumination when we're anxious. And this same network gets deactivated when we're paying attention. I'm going to let Anderson Cooper describe this to you because he does a better job than I do. Exercise. We've got the physical, exercise components down, and now it's about working out how can we actually train our minds.
Dr. Brewer is trying to understand how mindfulness can alter the functioning of the brain. He uses a cap lined with 128 electrodes.
We're going to start filling each of these 128 wells with conduction gel.
The electrodes are able to pick up signals from the posterior cingulate, part of a brain network linked to memory and emotion.
This is all just picking up electrical signal from the top of your head.
Since attending the mindfulness retreat, I'd been meditating daily and was curious to see if it had an impact on my brain.
We're going to have you start with thinking of something that was very anxiety-provoking for you.
Okay. When I thought about something stressful, the cells in my brain's posterior cingulate immediately started firing, shown by the red lines that went off the chart on the computer screen.
Just drop into meditation.
Okay. When I let go of those stressful thoughts and refocused on my breath, within seconds, the brain cells that had been firing quieted down, shown by the blue lines on the computer.
That's really fascinating to see like that.
Dr. Brewer believes everyone can train their brains to reach that blue mindfulness zone, but he says all the technology we're surrounded by makes it difficult.
So my last, one of my last clicker questions, what best describes your experience with meditation? You love it, you meditate daily, you like it, you do it often, but not daily. Sometimes you do it, you've tried, but your brain just won't settle down. You've never tried it or other. And so in our last 5 minutes before questions, I wanted to give you a couple tips about mindfulness and meditation for your own life and to help you encourage others. So let's see what we got. You guys said, you've tried it, but your brain just won't settle down. So that's normal. That's why I wanted to spend that last 5 minutes. And I have to say, probably nobody loves it or meditates daily. I do. I think you have to be brought to your knees sometimes to really start to meditate. And I'll give that credit to my 16-year-old wild child back 15 years ago. And by the way, the wild child is doing fine. But anyway, all right, here's a recovery ally. I use the shoes analogy for everything. Shoes, you try them on, some fit, some don't, but you don't give up wearing shoes. You just keep trying them on. Well, that's the way smoking cessation medicine. Some work better for one than others. Just try one on. Counselors are like shoes, but meditation techniques are like shoes too. Try them on, find the one that works for you. Now, what gets confusing is there are 3 types of meditation exercises. The one most people think of is focused awareness. That's the person sitting like a Zen master, focusing on their breath, but that's only one type of meditation. The other one is unfocused meditation, and that's what Justin Brewer does when he has smokers really just be present and feel what's going on with them and taste what's going on with them. Or if you're outside and it's a beautiful day, it's unfocused. And then there's compassion meditations. Now with focused meditation, there are also 3 basic types. There's concentrative types that exercise your brain, and that's usually the breath or a mantra. There's awareness, where you become an internal observer, or there's surrender methods. Now I'm a recovery ally. I like centering prayer. It's a surrender prayer where I let go. That's the shoe that fit me best. So there are more than one styles of focus-based meditation. The most important part is be comfortable. Sit, you do not have to sit like a guru. You do need to keep your spine erect because your body holds energy. And every meditation session focuses with dropping into your body and feeling your body. What do you do with your hands? Place them evenly so that you're comfortable. And I try to put a gentle smile on my face. I've heard it said smile from the inside of your mouth, but it's kind of a positive frame as you settle into your meditation. Now, here's what's really important for those who you've tried and been frustrated. So this is what our minds are like. If you try to focus on your breath, in no time flat, you will be thinking, my nose itches. Oh my God, I need to get bread at the store before it snows. Oh, my mom pissed me off so bad last night. Did you see that funny cat video? Like your brain goes off. That's normal. That's what our minds do. We slip into the default mode network. Here's where the magic of meditation practice comes in. It is being aware, not judging, and returning to our breath. Being aware, not judging, and returning to our breath. It is this constant, non-judgmental returning that is called the daisy pattern that helps calm down and uninflame our default mode network. Justin Brewer says, mindfulness is not emptying the mind. It is establishing a new and skillful relationship with your thoughts. So for example, on this practice session of a novice meditator, when they were thinking about the breath, they were still in the default mode network. But when they focused on the actual sensations in their body, that's where the meditation part is. So addiction is an inflammatory disease of the brain, and it is the most severe form of a habit loop. But mindful practice, whether it's just in the moment noticing our use, or whether it's concentrated practice for 10 or 20 minutes a day, will help reduce that inflammation. Awareness and curiosity are that bigger, better offer that are so powerful. And I love being with recovering people. I've loved helping people quit smoking. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done because people do go on to live amazing lives. So what is the most devastating molecule? Well, I used to say it's the one you like the best because that's the one you'll do too much of. Then I used to say it's the one that fits a need in your life because it deals with stress, or the one that your friends are doing. But now I'd say it's our habit loops without awareness. And non-judgmental curiosity is the key to freedom. So how do we help someone with addiction or any habit loop? It's empathy. Dig into your own habit loops. Try to feel how frustrating it's been for you to be able to break out and transfer that support and empathy to those trying to quit nicotine. So this is your last question. It's a type-in question. You can type in a short answer about what did you think about today's session. Be brutally honest. Nobody knows who's going to do what. You do have to hit the little paper airplane at the end to send it. I'd love to see if it actually worked. So we've got one person who's already sent their paper airplane. And then I hope Alex and you're getting the questions out of the chat box because that is got one more slide and I think we're done. I'm going to give you a few more minutes to send your little airplanes of comments about today's session, and you can also continue those comments when we get to the chat. I hope it hasn't been a waste of your time. I appreciate your attention. And now, if you've got a paper airplane and you haven't sent it, but you want to, go ahead and do it now. I'm going to cut you off. All right. And my last quote, when we get curious, we step out of our old fear-based reactive habit patterns and step into being. So that's my email address. You are welcome to email me at any time. And now I did it right on time.
Impressive. Thank you so much, Linda. So as we wait for people to put in some questions that they have, I jotted down a couple of questions for you that can get us going. So one of my first questions is, I think one of the biggest challenges with supporting people in quitting is getting people to a place where they're ready to quit. And so would just love to hear from you some of the best practices that you had working with students to motivate quit attempts.
Well, the curiosity, I think why I've been so successful is I just like people. I think they're fascinating. I will tell you, there was a time my mother died of lung cancer. And the year my mom was dying, I did not work with smokers, because every time I passed a 17-year-old who was smoking, I wanted to say, what are you doing? You're going to die. That is not helpful. If you're having times like that in your life, don't work with people who are smoking or trying to quit addictive behaviors. Take a break and take care of yourself. But when you can feel curious about their life stories, then go back to it. So I'd say it starts with the relationship. It's what MI says, set the relationship first. Have a good time.
And how did that look like for you? Was it just, engaging with students in the health center to have those conversations?
Absolutely. Working on campus is easy, but it is hard to start a conversation about tobacco smoke. So if somebody asks you what you do, I used to say, I just love people who smoke. That's what I do. And people are so like, whoa, what is I hate the behavior that's going to take them off the planet sooner than they need to be, right? I want to keep them on the planet. But if you say you love people who use tobacco or nicotine, they're like, now you got a conversation, honey.
Great. And then something else, and I'm still just looking for the chat box to see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to raise your hand or to put those in the chat box. Something else, we know a lot of the literature on young adults says that if young adults attempt quitting, they're most successful in quitting of any age group. So this is a really important time in life for young people to make quit attempts. But one of the challenges is that oftentimes young people don't want to utilize any treatment services to support them. So when you were on campus working with students, did you find a specific type of quitting resources like counseling or apps or NRTs or medication? What did you find to be most effective in supporting students in quitting?
Well, it's everything that's on your list for the rest of your session. I do think social media outreach, it's done in a positive way. Like I would do, most students don't smoke. Most smokers want to quit or vape, right? We can help you, free, quick kits, whatever, get them in. Everybody in the health center should be trained. I believe you should have a tobacco cessation guru who knows how to use the medicines. It's not your choice which medicines to use. It is the person who shows up, their choice. And so you hook them by your sense of humor and your openness and your empathy, and you meet them where they're at. So there's actually a researcher who's using how to smile to quit smoking, like how you change your brain chemistry too. So I don't know if that was helpful, but any and all, like we need to meet them everywhere they are. Every time you use nicotine, you make more receptors. Every time you upregulate. So the easiest day to quit is always today, because tomorrow you'll have more receptors. And if you can't hook them on tobacco, hook them on something else. What are they interested in? Exercise, mindfulness, meditation, porn. Talk to them about porn. I was seeing a lot of erectile-induced porn-induced dysfunction. Hook them where you can get them.
We do have a question that just came in. Are there any differences you can mention about adults versus students? At our location, college staff need more support in navigating smoke and tobacco-free policies.
I think obviously you have to sort of meet this time where you're frustrated with your addictive behavior, right? So adults have had a longer time to find things to dislike, so that's easier. but they also have had more changes in their brains, so that makes it tougher. What everybody though has, you know how we have problem lists in the clinic? I wish we had strength lists. Like, what's your best strength? What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do that you've overcome? Let's use that wisdom and apply it to your tobacco. So I knew a guy, he smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day. And the person who worked with him said, so what do you do well? And he's like, I'm a Marine, I run marathons. And she's like, well, would you go run a marathon tomorrow without practicing? He's like, no, I always prepared. Well, that's the way tobacco cessation is. Like, let's prepare, strategize. It's the toughest marathon you're going to run, but you can do this because you run marathons. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think older adults have more life experiences and ADGOs. Younger adults have less entrenched brain changes, but maybe less motivation to change because of their culture.
And so then just another question, and again, another one for me. Our team this year created a digital quit kit to help students go through the process of quitting, and tips on journaling and utilizing support. And as you were talking, I was thinking about meditation and the role of meditation. So can you share, when you are working with students to support them in quitting, how do you recommend integrating meditation?
So actually, you guys are all guinea pigs. Like that little section that I did for you with meditation, I have never done with a group before. So you could give me feedback about, was even that 5 minutes of meditation education beneficial for you? Is it made you more likely to maybe go back and try it again? I'm convinced, if you guys really want to stop addiction, that every 5-year-old should learn to meditate, and that every classroom at college should start with 3 minutes worth of meditation, because mindfulness is not taught, it's caught, like it's a practice thing. So even taking a few minutes to breathe with people at the start of a session is a good role model. So yeah, I think as many apps and meditation links you can do as possible. We can't change anything without being centered and knowing who we are.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any more questions for Linda before we close out this session and transition into our breakout sessions?
I have a question. Are you guys doing a full evaluation of the program at the end?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're doing 2-part evaluation. So one is after the session today, at the closing session, we'll have a link for all of the RNs who would like CEUs. We'll be putting in a link. And then after the 3rd session, we'll be sending out one full evaluation for each of the sessions so people can provide us with feedback. So please make sure to complete those evaluations at the end of the session, and then I'll make sure to share those with you as well, Linda.
Thank you. That was my question. Thank you so much. Oh, I forgot to stop sharing my screen.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Linda. I'm starting to see some people coming in, and they are wanting to also thank you for your presentation today. And I'm going to now share my screen so that you all can look at what we have coming up next. So if you are interested, everyone got in here, so that's good news. That means that you have all of the links for the sessions. But so these are the next sessions that we have coming up at 10:05. We'll have a little bit of a break for everyone to get up and move around for a second, and then you can come back. Just go to the website, which we'll put into the chat box if you don't have it up right now. And we have 3 sessions: products, prevalence, and perceptions. And in that session, Andrea and Caitlin from our team will be talking about some findings from focus groups they conducted with college students right before our pandemic. And then Maureen and Shannon from California Quits will be talking about how student health centers can strengthen their tobacco treatment services on campus. And then Dr. Tedeschi from California Smokers Helpline will be doing a training on motivational interviewing. So please make sure to jump back in at 10:05. The rooms will be opening up right as this one concludes. And I just want to thank Linda so much for her time coming today. I first saw Linda speak when I was brand new to tobacco control, probably 20 years ago. And what she taught then has just stuck in my mind. So thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work and your passion for these people that we have an opportunity to work with. And thank you for all you do.